What happens when raw talent meets relentless determination? Today's guest, Lisbeth Perdomo, embodies this powerful combination. As the founder of Que Mami Inc., she's transformed her immigrant family's legacy of perseverance into a movement, building an unstoppable community of Latina entrepreneurs across America. But before Que Mami Inc. became the force that it is today, Lisbeth was that young girl from a family of 5, turning music into medicine for underserved communities. She didn't just dream, she did. When doors closed, she built windows. When traditional paths crumbled, she carved her own. Join us for an intimate conversation about defying expectations, navigating postpartum, the art of genuine community building, and why sometimes your biggest setback becomes your greatest comeback. This isn't just another success story. It's a masterclass in turning vision into reality. Your next dose of inspiration awaits. Let's get into it. Lisbeth Perdomo is a force to be reckoned with. She's a Dominican-born entrepreneur, community leader, and an all-around inspiration. As a CEO and founder of Que Mami Inc., she empowers Latina business owners to chase their dreams and build thriving businesses. Join us as we chat with Lisbeth about her incredible journey, the power of community, and how she's making real difference in the lives of women everywhere. Welcome, Lisbeth.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
Yes, I'm so excited that you're here sharing space and time with me and our listeners. Now, as I shared with you before we actually started recording, your bio reads like a movie trailer, and I will share my personal thoughts on what movie that is later. But in terms of just your background, I mean, coming from music education to community activism and now empowering Latina entrepreneurs across the nation, right? What's the common thread that connects all of these chapters of your life?
And that's a heavy loaded question, and I love that.
Take your time. Take your time.
And when it's heard back to you, you don't think about it in those terms, but I love it because it's very much centered on just self love and empowerment and always fighting. I felt like growing up, I'm a youngest of 5, and I have 3 sisters and a brother. And then seeing my mother guerrera también, all of them have gone through extremely intense obstacles and overcoming them and still being able to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel and be a force and not taking no for an answer and just going blindly. Watching them has also been like the driving force. My sisters and specifically my mother. And then also living vicariously through them, each of them, because they're like each a rock star in their own individual way, and we're all so different. And I like to say like I have a piece of each of them internally, being the youngest, and I think I feel like that's been my superpower.
Like a gift, like you learn from all of their mistakes. You learn what to do, what not to do.
Yeah, I remember having this conversation. I was like in my early 20s, and I was talking to my oldest sister, the first one born. I told them, like, like, I watch all y'all, and I'm just like, yes, no, am I doing this? Am I saying this to mom? Am I acting like that? Like, so I was able to kind of, yeah, so I was able to kind of like, all right, go down this path, go down that path. And no shade, because at that age, you're not thinking of judging them. You're just thinking of them like, oh, okay, she did that. All right, that's not going to work for me. I wouldn't do that. So it was more of like a teaching opportunity. So I didn't have to go through certain things or see or experience certain things because they already been there, done that. And I knew what not to do. So that was kind of always in the back of my pocket.
Can you talk about growing up? How was that being the youngest of 5? You had the opportunity to take pieces of things that you would do, what you wouldn't do, what you like, what you don't like. But it sounds like that also paved the way for you to follow your dreams. It looks like your family and just the support system around you allowed you to flourish in what you wanted to do. Can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. I know growing up, like looking back, and when you have your own kids, you start to see like, wow, like my parents made so many sacrifices for just to even have a smile on our face. And we didn't see any of the hardship. So from my parents, they come from a background of like education was number one. That was like a non-negotiable. My dad was an engineer. My mom was an OBGYN in DR. So she had a clinic. So they kind of like were just like, yeah, so if we're gonna have a family, this is the expectation, right? So hard work is not unfamiliar. So growing up, being the youngest was also kind of tricky and weird looking back because you're not really put in a position of leadership. You're just looked at as like, okay, like that's our baby. We're gonna protect her and we have to guide her at all costs, right? But like as I grew up, you start to rebel against being the youngest and that you don't know or they underestimate you or they think you're not paying attention. So for me, I think that's where that fight comes in me, always trying to prove and kind of not be looked at or underestimated by anything or anyone. Even though they weren't giving that to me, they were just, you're the little sister. So you're just there looking cute in the corner, right? But for me, it was more like, no, like you guys are going this way. I want to do it like that. I mean, you guys are acting this way. I'm going to do that. Y'all are wearing this. I'm going to wear that. So it was always them going right and I'm going left. But regardless what my parents just I was just a small like a very quiet kid, very to myself. And then when I really started to learn and enjoy music and remember lyrics and singing, because that's just always been my passion, that's when they started to pay attention a little bit more to me, when they noticed that I was, how can I say that, like just had this little hidden talent. And then as I got older, that's when my uncles would come in and take me to those little concerts in the city locally and perform. And that's what made me fall in love with it, honestly. So it was just a non-negotiable. They were just like, oh, you want to go sing here? Let's go do it. Like, it was just normalized. Like, let's go take you there and do this. Like, it was never a no for me. So yeah, everybody was very supportive of anything I wanted to do, thankfully. Because my parents did have 5 kids, and in that time in the 90s, the world was so different. And so, my dad was on one side working. My mom was at home. She couldn't really go back to school to do her nursing here and become a doctor here because nothing transfers over. So they were constantly in survival mode. So when I became a teenager, and they were a little bit more settled, more comfortable, they had a fluid income. It was still very much a luxury to get a voice lesson, still very much a luxury to kind of find someone that looked like me to give the voice lessons. So I liked it, but I just couldn't connect with the person teaching me. But that whole experience of trying to like seek out and figure it out on my own, um, even at 13 and 12 was, again, it I talk about it, it's not really normal for a 12, 13-year-old to find those things. Now it is because of social media, right? They can just post a video and they're like exposed, right? But for me, everything, you have to drive everywhere. Everything, you have to kind of meet people one-on-one. And so convincing my parents to trust like a random to teach me voice lessons was like, well, I guess she's okay. Like, well, just take her. Thankfully, they would sit there and wait. But I think just kind of hustling on my own and then just like having them say yes or no was just the norm for me. Like, oh, I found this, let's do that. Okay, we'll take you. And if they couldn't take me with a sibling or one of my uncles, that would be like my cheerleader. But that definitely set the tone for me and like making me feel limitless and unstoppable, because if I told myself I was going to do something, that's exactly what I did. And hearing a no was like not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Well, you're super determined. I love it. I love it.
It's a curse because there's times where it works in my favor to be ambitious and determined. And then there's times where I'm like, no, Lisbeth, you got to fall back. Relax, reevaluate. You don't have to do everything. So it's a check. Plus, I'm a mother. So I can't just say yes and go whenever I want like that.
We got questions. Yes, exactly, exactly. Well, talk us through the rest of your journey. So after music, well, actually, not after music. Talk to us throughout the journey of music, because you gave back to the community by way of music.
Yeah. So it took me a while to get there because I was really not feeling the idea of working for someone else at all. That was never something that I ever took a liking to, even to this day. But I understood that I had to, once you have a family, it's not as simple. And I really had to kind of like put my feet on the ground and come to reality, especially with my partner. We've been together for 17 years. So I had to kind of like grow up as a young girl, then becoming a woman, and then also learning how to build a family structure. Um, and be aligned consistently with this person so that I also get to accomplish my dreams and goals, right? And it wasn't always easy. Prior to having my child, music was such a huge component of my life. I went to school for Berkeley, got accepted there. I studied there. After I had my daughter, by junior year, I had to leave. And then I'm just like, you know what? Let me get a degree in marketing and business so I can kind of like have something under my belt. And I went to Cambridge College here in Massachusetts. So I still had to kind of like keep myself in the midst of something to keep that fire going. And then for a while, I didn't want a 9 to 5 while I was going to school. So I'm just like, you know what? If I'm not going to perform and be this grand artist, I can still teach and give back. So that's where me trying to get into nonprofits like Movement City, White Youth um, youth development organization here in Lawrence, and so many other different programs that offered arts education to children. That's where I really wanted to be, and that's where I felt the most comfortable. And it taught me a lot. I realized that what I was doing, because no one else at all was doing it in my community, you had to go to kind of like all these suburban areas where they were being served to students that didn't look like me. And so I felt like I had a great thing because people had talented kids. People wanted to pay for something and have an investment that they were going to see the benefits in their kids, and it wasn't going to be freaking $5,000 a month for them to get a piano and a voice lesson, right? It's still an expense, but it was affordable enough where I could be able to put food on the table for my family, and they were able to give their kid a luxury quality education when it came to reading music, performing it, understanding how to read musical notes, all that good stuff. So being able to do that and still stay connected to music, even though it wasn't the performer artist I wanted to be, was still a big confidence booster. And then it trickled into kind of like being a business, which I had no clue what I was doing. I just knew how to send the invoice and get paid. And after that, I'm like, that's off. Yeah, and I'm like, after that, that didn't matter. Like, I paid for voices. It's true. Yeah, I'm like, I didn't even know I had to register with the city. I didn't get an LLC. I didn't do any of that. Like, I didn't structure it the way, obviously, I have Que Mami, right? But it was a hit, and I had a good reception, and I felt like that built trust in my community, being that they already knew my history as a performer. So then when I was teaching, it was kind of like an added bonus. Like it solidified my presence. And to this day, I'll still get DMs like, hey, are you still teaching music? I want my daughter to do something. And there's nobody in my community doing it anymore. And I feel so bad. And I'm always tempted, like, I need to start something, but I'm like, I can't. I am biting off more than what I could chew. So that impact really showed me like what I could do if I got to a level where I legitimized the business. I had a proper business plan. If I did have the marketing, if I did have the website to booking, I know that was going to be a win. But, I grew out of that phase and I kind of, what's the word? I wanted more. It wasn't fulfilling anymore to me. As much as I love seeing my students progress and they're still doing amazing things and they're all full-blown artists and performing, for me personally, as I've evolved as a woman, my mentality changed as to like, okay, what's next? And that's when I ended up having my second child. I was literally teaching up until like my seventh and a half, 8th month of my son being pregnant with him. He's 6 now. And that's when the evolution started to come up like, what's next for me? What can I do? Music is no longer fulfilling me. I don't want to work a 9 to 5. Going back to school is really not going to happen. How can I still be myself? How can I make a living? How can I still develop my dreams and goals and do what I love? And it's not music, because again, I'm coming from a background where music was the end all be all. That's how everyone knew me. That's how everyone took me seriously. That's like, if you do anything else, like nobody's gonna care. And that was my fear, like stopping that and being successful at something different. But I knew I have so much more to offer than just that, right? I have so many things under my belt that I didn't even know that I could do. So that's when the next chapter begins for me after having my son.
Is that the birth of Que Mami?
The birth of Kim Mami, the birth of my son. Yeah, so it was tricky. Yeah, it was true. Yeah, simultaneously, if you think about it like that. It was tricky because postpartum really hit me hard after him. But I know it was coming because I I know with my daughter I was a little younger and I had it, but it wasn't as severe as with my son. When I say severe, I mean like it was just like I felt like I had a what's it called? A brain transplant. Like I just did not feel like myself. I did not feel like the fabulous, beautiful, strong, empowered woman that I was. I had accomplished so much with singing. I had accomplished so much with teaching. I have done so many things in the community, and I just didn't feel like that girl. And I kind of like hid myself from events and networking and doing anything that had to do with like being outside. Like I was just on the social platforms and just looking at all the great things happening that I wasn't a part of. And I was just really miserable and really sad. But it had nothing to do with like I think it was also turning 30 too. Like I was like, I'm turning 30, nothing's happening in my life. Like I need a shift, something's weird. I don't want to teach. I feel like that's draining. It doesn't make me happy. It's not fulfilling. I didn't know what was next for me. I was really questioning what was going to be the next great thing in my life. And again, the overambitious, self-determined person was like, you have to do this. And it's just like, maybe I just need this year with my son to just reconnect with me and figure out what that looks like. And
Feel
little
that.
did I know that reinventing myself personally was going to get me to what Que Mami is now. And I didn't know it was going to be that. So I just started simple. Once I kind of found like a little bit more confidence in myself and I started to kind of shift my mindset, I told myself, like, I'm going to be a little bit more bold in my social platform because I'm a very extremely private person and I was very scared to kind of like be vulnerable. When I told myself like the way I'm going to combat my postpartum was being vocal on my platform about it, I know there was other women that looked like me that were experiencing what I was experiencing and nobody's talking about it. And still to this day, no one's talking about it that much in depth, right? Um, so I would talk about like what I'm wearing, the breastfeeding I'm doing, the foods that I was eating to sustain my breastfeeding, the products that I bought my baby. I was doing organic this and organic that. The experience that I have and the reception of people looking at me because I do breastfeed. Like I was just going down the list of like things I had to like encounter while being a mom of two and balancing motherhood and all the things. And again, Que Mami still wasn't tinkered, but I just remember, I don't know why I was saying the name Que Mami in my head, but I knew when I would speak to other women around me, whether it's my friends, my siblings, or my community, I'd be like, damn, Que Mami, like you look so beautiful today. That look, Que Mami, or it's a cat call. Or it's like a cat call in the street and some random is trying to like say something to you and you're like, oh, like stop. You know what I mean? So I wanted to take that name and make it empowering. And make it like a term of endearment. Like when you look at another woman, like, wow, okay, mommy, like she's just doing her thing. And she didn't have to necessarily be a mom, but it's just the emphasis of like, wow, what a woman you are. But it was just playing in my head. And I know I wanted to create something. I just didn't know what. So being on social media and being vocal, and when I look back at the videos, it was just like me trying to just express what I was trying to become. I was trying to fake it till I make it to kind of like see what it manifested into. I didn't know it was going to become what it is now. So, after a couple of months, like I'm just like, you know what? I need a whole revamp. I need to work out. I need to eat healthy. I need to kind of like infiltrate and hack my brain into, what's the word? Kind of like reprogram myself, right? And that came with like listening to um self-help videos and podcasts that were out and motivational videos and listening to frequencies that were positive affirmations and doing yoga, aligning myself, reading about chakras, just like anything that had to do with healing mentally and emotionally. You're probably just like, why didn't you just see a therapist? But I don't know. I just didn't do all those things. I'm like, I don't figure it out. I'm a problem
It takes
solver. So
all of those things. It takes all of those things
and that
on
looks
a
definitely
daily basis.
for people. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I just pulled and I told myself I got on a workout challenge. I started eating healthy. I would wake up at the same time every day. I had a schedule for my son. I was outside in the summer doing the things and I'm just like, you know what? I need to do something and create something. And that's where I decided to host a brunch with women. But it came at a perfect time because I was still battling with the depression and I was still trying to figure out things in my relationship because I changed and I had evolved and I wanted him to get there with me, right? So that was also a struggle. Um, so funny story, I met with a pastor, a woman pastor that had came from Rhode Island and she was new to the city. And I was the person that kind of like she needed, and I was the person that no, she was the person I needed, and vice versa. She was new to the community. She needed like someone to kind of like who to connect with, who to speak to, what to do. And I was kind of looking for guidance. I didn't know how to be spiritual, but we kind of like used each other in that sense to kind of like figure out who we were and what we were in the community and how to kind of grow and develop just to feel safe. So for me, it was like being vulnerable because she didn't know me. She wasn't from the community, right? So it was easy for me to like divulge all my personal stuff to her. And then for her, I was mostly like trying to get her out of her shell because again, she's a pastor, right? So she was trying to see how she fit in. Being a young pastor, I think she was like 31 or 32. And so I'm like, I totally get it. I'm like, not everybody gets that. Not everybody experiences what you're experiencing, and it's new. So I can see why being in a crowd and being accepted and not being judged if they want to do X, Y, and Z, but you're about A, B, A, B, C. So it's weird. So I think together we decided like, hey, let's host a brunch. Let's invite a bunch of women. Let's sit down and talk. We have a free space, which is a church. It's a beautiful garden. Let's host a brunch and just invite a bunch of people. We got a bunch of sponsors from businesses of girls I personally knew that had businesses that they were running. We were able to get 40 RSVPs. So 60 people showed up. We got a donation. So we had a beautiful turnout. And the brunch was mostly about like me reconnecting with the community and reintroducing myself and talk about the work that I was doing personally to be able to come to the point where I was at. And little did I know, the women that we were speaking to were kind of seeking the same thing. Like they were just looking for that something, right? The world was so even with social media, the world was still very much different 6 years ago, right? And nobody knew how to put pieces together. And what kept ringing in people's heads was, well, the common thread in the meet and greet brunch that we hosted was, I want to start a business, but I don't know how to do it. I want to conquer this, but I don't know where to start. I want to go here, but I don't know what to do. So it was constantly like, I want to do this. I want to go here. I want to start this. And I'm just like, okay, everybody's saying the same thing. There's something here. I just don't know what. So after the brunch, I was able to reflect. And what that was it was September of 2019. And by October, I'm like, I'm going to start an IG page and keep the what's the word, the traction going, because I had a bunch of attention from the flyers circulating. So the flyers circulated and everybody was just like, what is this? What are you doing? What's going on? Like in my head, I'm like, you can't say no because you're gonna like put your business in the background. But I'm like, oh no, I'm doing this. Just wait and see. The grand opening's coming soon. But it really wasn't. I was just kind of like going off the traction. So in October, I started that ABG page. It was gonna be solely centered on motherhood support, postpartum help, and just being a safe space from others. While I was doing that on the page, again, I kept getting DMs from girls like, hey, where do I do this for business? And how do I sign up for that? And do you know where I should go? And I'm like, why are people coming up to me about this? Like, I'm not this business person or consultant. Like, I had a business and then I stopped doing that. And then I was singing and then I don't know what their thing is. And I'm like, the more and more I started to get these DMs in my inbox constantly and messaging and emails. I'm like, or like, oh, when's the next event? Next year, sign me up for that. I'm like, damn, like I really do have something here. How can I capitalize on this? And then something told me that I just need to convert. I need to convert what I was doing because the work that I wanted to do for motherhood support and postpartum support, like involved a lot of people in the medical field, a lot of licenses that at that time, I was not ready to dive into so much. And I didn't want to be giving out or misinforming people if I wasn't a specialist in said thing, right? I didn't want to do that. I just only went off of personal experience, and you can only do that for so long. And I didn't want to cheat people of that.
Just saying.
No, absolutely. I think it was fair. I was honest with myself. Like I wasn't gonna go back to school for that. I wasn't gonna study it.
Yeah.
And if I did decide to move forward with it, I would have hired professionals to be that. But I'm like, you're not gonna do that in your first 3 years of a business, especially if you don't have any income. And I would have probably still been in school studying certain things just to get certified for certain stuff. So I'm like, I'm not gonna do that to myself. So I slowly pivoted, like probably like a couple of months in. I don't know when the turning point was when I'm like, you know what, let me just do business consulting and marketing. And a lot of it had to do with social media. everybody wanted to know how to be that girl on social media, how to like influencer big then, but no, we're just starting out the content creation and just solely focusing on that. A lot of people didn't know how to build their personal brand and how to kind of show up authentically so that whatever skill or talent that they had was also catapulted on their platform. And then for me, that came naturally being what I was in the community. My whole thing was just sharing my experience, whether it was an audition, whether it was a performance, whether it was a photo shoot, just doing that and sharing it with the world and not having any type of agenda or being told to do it was just my ammo all the time. So when I started Que Mami, I told myself, like, how can I capitalize this and get the attention that I want authentically and still connect with other women across the country? And the idea came probably like a month before the pandemic. So 2019 was the brunch, and then probably like 2, 3 months later, March of 2020, that's when everything shut down. So this is where like the real foundational things of Que Mami were born, because I had all this time in the world. Everybody was either on their phones or on their laptop trying to keep themselves entertained. And for me, it was golden because at that time, I had already started my 9 to 5, which I currently still do have, working with the city. So it just became like a playground. Like I was emailing small local businesses in different towns to major brands that were Latina or Black and Brown owned, asking them for interviews to be on an IG live with me or I would purchase from the Latino brands because again, everybody was shopping on Amazon. So I'm like, okay, you're going to be shopping like these major Target and Amazon. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to shop local brands and put them on the spot and wear their things and showcase them. So for example, I would, I don't know if you know Adrienne Bailon, the Cheetah Girl, that she's a host now. She's a singer. She has a clothing line now. So I would reach out to her and her team. I would reach out to Rizos Curls. I would reach out to Desi that she had was starting out. A lot of brands that were slowly but surely starting out at that time, but they're big. They're like major household names now. So I was just shooting my shot and putting myself out there to get any type of traction. So whatever I purchased that was local or major, I would post it, tag them, do a blog about it, express and emphasize that shopping local was the thing to do, that if you, during COVID, like instead of doing this, you should be doing that. For example, there were 3 young ladies in my community during COVID that, because they were fashion designers, they started making cloth or cotton based masks for the community. So different pattern, they were buying like tons of material. And then, so I was like posting things like that, to give them a shout out, making a newsletter about them. So it was really just what came to me on that day and what inspired me. And I was also tapping into talking about still being a mother, having the business. Still, I wasn't registered or had anything official yet. It was just me trying to figure out like what's gonna be my niche, what's gonna be my thing. And so from there, when I really started like, okay, I can really capitalize off of this. How can I be sustainable and have a full-fledged company and have people come to me for consulting, public relations, and marketing. And I feel like because of the way I was just consistent that whole year during COVID, I kind of got burned out. I'm like, all right, well, how can I structure this and have it make sense on paper? I need to look legitimate. I can't just post key videos and just tag the businesses. Like I need to do something that's going to actually put these businesses on a pedestal and get them the attention they need. So that's where I'm like, all right, I need a team. I need a website. I need a logo. I need a cohesive brand. So I was just pulling. So if I saw someone that did a logo, I reached out to her. If I saw her, it was the same person that, got me my website and my logo, was the same person that helped me with my social media. So I was cohesively trying to build this. No clue what I was doing. I had no clue what I was doing. It was just kind of like learning as I went. And it was so beautiful because even what I learned looking back, because I had this big head with singing and performing, like when you're so confident in something, like like the back of your hand. So when you're starting from ground zero from something that you don't know, it really humbles you and it really puts things in perspective. And you can't get mad or frustrated at the process, right? So asking questions was at first was like so embarrassing and so weird because I came from a place of just knowing everything. with my music and nobody could tell me anything. So with building the brand with the team and talking to people about it and talking about my weaknesses and, sharing my strengths, but also people telling me how I should, because my team was also learning as well, was such a cool experience, such a cool, humbling and insightful experience that I think that just really opened the door for me kind of like each year elevating.
And there's a lot to unpack. There's I took notes because that is
Girl,
so much,
yes, yes.
so
I'm sorry.
much.
I babble. I could go on, but I
No,
gotta stop.
no,
I don't have
no. This is
to.
so good. I didn't want to interrupt you, so here I'm like
No,
taking notes.
thank you, thank you.
Yes, there's so much. But before I jump into a couple of things that I want to dive a little deeper
Yeah,
in with your journey and your story, why don't you share where is Que Mami Inc? Who are you working with? What are your current initiatives? What's your goal? Because if you put out your goal, then who knows what listener is out there that's looking, for someone like you. They're looking for Que Mami to help them in their journey. Your story just affirms and validates that the universe is always listening and the universe puts people in your path. Good people meet people. It's like that flow of natural energy. So yeah, I would love to hear you chat and bring us to speed of where we are today with Que Mami Inc. and where you're trying to take it.
absolutely. Right now, we are in year 5. We just had our anniversary October 5th of 2024,
Yes,
of officially being a legitimate business. And it
I
has
say
been
that
in,
too.
yeah, it's
Gotta
true
throw
though.
that in there.
It's pretty crazy because it was so much hard work, so many tears, so many setbacks, so many great moments and learning moments. But it was really has been in year 5 that I have felt the strongest and the most confident and the most focused and determined with Que Mami. Because everything else before that was kind of like up and down and kind of like questionable. And this year really solidified a lot of things for me. And it kind of took me out of the sphere of living in that imposter syndrome, even, loving Que Mami and birthing it and doing amazing things with it. There was still a lot of times I was questioning myself. So for year 5, it was finally the year where it was like, wow, like that's not even a speck in my brain anymore. So what I was able to be focused on was more on execution rather than perfection. And what I mean by execution is delegating tasks that we're going to elevate the brand in terms of how I take myself seriously when it comes to the administrative part of the business, right? Making sure I was consistent with that. And then the other thing was more of like, right now I'm a one-man show, right? So how I can delegate and outsource some of the tasks that are time consuming for me so that I can give to an intern or someone on payroll that I can go ahead and focus on other things, which is kind of like the business development of the brand. And while I was able to do that, I saw a return, right? I saw the consistency and I saw how people were receptive of the consistency of my platform, the website, and reaching out. So right now I have a couple of clients. So my first client, Solimad Williams, she's based in Cali. I love her down. She is like
What
the
up,
best.
son?
Woo! And I want to get into a couple of things about her and why it just works. And then I have Ruth Gonzalez. She has a studio in the Boston area called Fierce Felt Wellness. She's a yoga instructor. Then I have Soil Food Truck, so a cafe. So they started off as a food truck and now she's opening a cafe in 2025. So I've been helping her with the business consulting, registering her business with the state, getting her tax ID. And then the next phase is kind of the PR marketing once she has a cafe open. Same thing with Ruth, helping her with the logistical parts of the business. And now it's about finding a space for her to do full-time yoga in that studio because right now she does like pop-ups for her yoga and building her business credit because that's foreign to her. And then with obviously Solimar is doing the PR. And then I have tons of clients pending. Is once that contract is signed, we good to go. And I can't really discuss them and talk about them now, but
Yeah.
One is a doula service, one is a podcaster, and another is a young lady who is interested in, well, she sells intimate apparel and she has a local shop here in the city. So we're working on that. But right now, I've become more receptive to people wanting PR, the power of PR, being in the media and getting the right team behind you when it comes to catapulting your business to another sphere. Right now with Solimar, being on platforms like this is important, building community, because she does come from a small town in California, probably like an hour or 30 minutes away from LA. And so my goal with her was to make sure that she understood that it was going to be a slow and steady journey. I'm not a PR agency that focuses on just going viral and making money. My goal is to be strategic and making sure you're building community while you're developing your brand and also really connecting. Because right now, what we're seeing is like influencers propelling these brands to $1 million to be $1 billion industries just because of connection, networking, and really loving the product. And so she has that of a great product, and I want to make sure it doesn't get lost in the sauce. And it's not just thrown in a Target or thrown in Amazon just because you can, right? That takes a level that she will get to eventually, but her quarterly clothing deserves to be in a space where I can totally see a celebrity wearing it and actually sharing it because they actually love the product and they actually love her. So that's the mentality I'm at. I'm more of like intentional work rather than viral, hitting it big and then on to the next. So, and I like being a boutique agency where it's not like I have 100 employees and I'm untouchable and unreachable and I'm just the CEO on the corner and I'm just like not hands on. Like I very much love to be hands-on and having that relationship one-on-one with my clients. Eventually, like definitely want 4 or 5 more people on the team. I'm currently in talks with having another co-founder and having an investor to kind of like elevate
Awesome.
the brand to a level where I didn't even think it was gonna go, but it kind of plays on the foundational stuff for Que Mami, how we started, which was like postpartum health, fitness, balancing motherhood, being an entrepreneur while you're having your 9 to 5, kind of that speaks to kind of like my audience. And I want to make sure I still stay true to that, but honor it in a way that is kind of like next level, right?
Yeah.
So right now I'm having a lot of fun. It doesn't feel like work. I'm sorry, I forgot one of my other clients. Her name is Ashima. She just completed building out her location here in Lawrence. It's called STEM Spot, and it's a cafe slash interactive facility for um STEM. So every area in the facility is interactive. Everything is science. So and it has a little cafeteria where parents can come in with their laptop. It's a huge open loft space. The kids could be running around, and whatever point you are in the location, you can see your kids playing while you're like jamming out work on your laptop. And there's
That's awesome.
classes for STEM. So I'm really excited to be a part of that because my son loves STEM. He's 6, so it's right up my alley. And again, I try to connect with clients that have been impactful and align with me and stuff and things that I would use. Like the fashion right up my alley. That's my gig. I love that. Doula services, which is maternal health, is again the foundation of Que Mami. Them and making sure that we keep our kids active mentally and emotionally and disconnected away from the tablet. That's right up my alley. So I try to align with things and make sure whoever becomes my client is a good mesh and aligns with the brand. And it just makes sense because if I don't, it's kind of like if I have a major brand comes to me and I never use their product, I don't know who they are. It's like if Coca-Cola comes to me, I'm like, listen, I don't have anything for you because I don't even drink Coca-Cola. So the check could be $50 million. It's just I can't do that. I don't have the energy to align with something just because the check is there. So I've also learned that not to be in survival mode and be desperate to get X partnership or collaboration because of clout or what's attached to it. I've been okay with having that slow and steady race. So that's where I'm at with Kimami. And just letting a lot of the clients have come to me. And that just speaks volumes for me because coming from a place where I was just like hunting people in 2020 And I'm still like that. I still send emails, like, because I still eventually want that dream client that I want. But I I have learned to be okay with like letting things come, doing my work behind the scenes and making sure I'm putting the burn out there, sending emails to people like you, like, hey, I got a client. Whether you have a platform of 500 people or 500,000, be connected to it because I love what you do. So that's where Que Mami's at right now.
That's so exciting as I hear you. Okay, so now I'm just gonna say it. Like the movie that I told you in the beginning that when we connected from your story is Honey, right? And for those listeners that are too young to know what I'm talking about, then go switch up the
Sorry.
frequency or go watch Honey.
Yes, yes.
Because it's just you followed your passion through and through. And throughout your story, something about your personality and your characteristic and your drive, Lisbeth, is that like you don't sit around and wait for people to give things to you. Like you will go out on your own from your very young age, from childhood, like finding a way to get to class, right? To vocal class or piano class or music class, and finding your way, like even through the hella hardships of postpartum, because there's nothing pretty about that, right? The only pretty part is when you come out of it. Like when you
Like, oh,
rise through and you
there she
break
is.
through. Yeah, like that, oh, she's back better than ever. But in essence, you always went after what your heart told you to go after, no matter the circumstance. And I think that deserves hella flowers. You deserve lots of kudos. That in itself is so inspiring because it is so easy to continue scrolling and not do something that'll help your future, even if you don't know what it is. We're all given that inner voice, that intuition, and that is from something greater than us. And either we listen to that or we don't. And it sounds like you always listened, and it served you well throughout your journey. So kudos to you. That's super inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, out of everything in your journey, out of your story, what moment did you feel like giving up and you just didn't? Like, what pushed you through?
So one thing I learned each year passing, and again, I could be wrong. Some of the questions could have been of like, when I say this, not understanding what I'm doing or being confused at what I'm doing, questioning what I'm doing, or just saying, I don't get it. Like I would get like really weird questions, but then they had like kind of like a hidden thing in the back with like, just like, who do you think you are? Like, why are you doing this? So that was a common thing throughout the year. Even with like, for a little bit, I didn't have support of some of my siblings. They didn't get it. Except one of them. She's in the tech world right now. And she's doing amazing. But she was the one I leaned on when it came to like the website. It was just that was a foreign word to me. No clue what that entailed or how that looked like. So she was just like my go-to for that. And when she understood what I was doing, she's like, okay. And she kind of just let it rock. And then when she saw the community build and build and build, she's like, all right, well, we gotta talk, right? Well, like, what are you doing? How can I say this? It really taught me to. That's another thing. Entrepreneurship builds another side of you that's like, excuse my language, just like, I really don't give a fuck what you think.
Yeah.
Right? Like I really had to learn how to quiet the noise and not take things personal, because looking back, I knew that I was doing was super forward and innovative and different and new and crazy. I completely switched up my whole being and character. Like I literally just, all right, I'm this now. So what? Like you either mess with it or you don't. And I remember that I didn't think that that was such a big deal. Again, like we're coming from 30 years of just singer. And then the next day I woke up and I'm just like, nah, I'm doing this now. And I'm going to go at it at 100. So that within itself, I had to look back like, yeah, that is some crazy shit. It's like Beyonce saying like, I'm going to go be African, I don't know, a teacher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she's going to be a teacher because she hates the school system and she's going to be impactful there. Like people are like, or she's going to run for office.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be like crazy. So in that mist, I learned that like it's never too late to pivot and change. There's no age limit to that at all. I was so scared to just leave. And she'd be like, why am I questioning if I can do this? Meaning like that I can just completely change my whole ammo and do something completely different, right? Like, and once I switched that, I was so much more happier and so much relieved. And I was happy with my choice. And again, it was like, I was so worried about what people were saying, what would they would think of me. Are they going to take me serious? Are they going to pay my rate? Are they going to pay attention to what I'm saying, what I'm doing? And the more and more I invested in learning and education and kind of like putting me in the realm of like really being an expert, I knew that I would get better. I would feel better about myself and not have that imposter syndrome I was having in the beginning because it was crazy. I'm like, they're going to be like, what little girl thinking all this time and she thinks she can like do business and she can consult me on it and then she can do PR and do marketing. But the thing is, I was doing those things already in my way, right? Not that technical on paper stuff that you would learn in school or like $100 million PR firm, but I was doing it already, right? And so when I finally put it together and it was cohesive and it was cool and it was beautiful and it was different, I'm just like, yeah, I have something here and no one can fuck with me. Like, I knew what I was doing. No, I'm like, I know what I'm doing is cool. I haven't heard of it. That's when the world started to shift to after COVID, like the floodgates opened. There was more women's networks. There was more business panels happening. The BC Capital was opening the floodgates for Black and brown businesses. More funding was out there for us. And there was more diversity, equity, and inclusion in corporations. Like the whole conversation and narrative was starting to change. And I was kind of a part of that flux that was coming in. And it was just perfect timing. So when I look back, I'm like, I was just ahead of my time and people had to catch up. That's what that was. That's what that was. And that was the same thing with the voice lessons. When I was doing that, nobody was doing it. So what I've learned about me, that in the moment it was going to be scary, it was going to be weird because nobody understood. Nobody was there. If it was happening in Silicon Valley in New York, that's cool. But we were here. So because it was unheard of, even in Boston, I don't know of a PR agency that's Latina owned. I don't. And so even though I still have a lot of work to do, I'm not where I want to be, but I just know that nobody's doing it like me or will be doing it like me. So I had to learn that about myself. Every time I innovate or do something different, I'm the crazy one. But then when Fulanita does it, and she's a J-Lo or she's a Thalia or it's Shakira or Karol G is doing it, like, oh, they pay attention to it. But when it's someone that looks like you and it's in your local community, it's just like, who she thinks she is? And it's just like, no, like, I'm just here trying to move on to the next thing and and compete with myself every year and be bigger every year.
I feel that 1,000%. And I feel like that part right there is where a lot of people get stuck in their feels. Then they stop. They take their foot off the gas and like, well, no one's watching me. I'm not getting, and that is the moment that you go harder and you just keep on going. I had this conversation with a friend earlier about reinventing ourselves. There are a lot of people that are in that phase right now, right? Where they stop doing something that they've been doing for so long and now they're trying something new and they're like half in, half out because of that fear of they've held on to this identity, but it's very much like clothes, right? When you wear clothes that fit you, that fall into your taste, that fall into speak to who you are and who you're feeling at the moment in high school, you're not going to wear the same clothes when you're 30, right? I feel like people get so stuck on what other people see them as that they don't stay authentic to themselves. People love to pigeonhole others. And people love to put other people in certain boxes. And if they can't figure you out, they're not going to pay mind to you. Even though you're hot shit. Even though what you're doing is cool, refreshing, innovative, and creative, they're not going to see that. And it's okay. Everyone has their time. But that doesn't mean that you should slow down or not change. And that come up fresher and better every time you do. I wish that was talked about a lot more too. I feel like that's not talked about, and especially aspiring entrepreneurs, because how many entrepreneurs that have been in the game for a while have done different businesses, have tapped into different markets or genres or fields. So at the end, I think your story is extremely, extremely empowering. I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
I have a question for you. What's your goal for 2025? What's your own personal goal for 2025?
Personal.
Yes. If you could share. I guess for
Oh, no,
self.
of course. No, no, yeah, yeah. Just more structure and discipline financially because I have two major goals, which is planning my wedding and buying a one family home. We already ventured in the real estate realm, but it's time to get our one family. And so those are my two things. I'm putting it out into the universe and then doing my part. Of course, we can't just leave it to the universe.
No,
We can just throw it up and not do nothing with it.
sit back.
So yes, like okay, I'm gonna wait. So no, I gotta put that work and just those two major things because we work. Me and my hubby work so hard for the relationship and the kids, and we just deserve like those two major beautiful things in our lives that we just been so patiently, diligently working for. So those are my personal goals, and just honestly, um, another personal side note, and I hope whoever hears this, it clicks for them. I deal with anxiety and depression. I was diagnosed with it about 8, 9 years ago. I know something was wrong with me, but to be diagnosed is important so you can understand how you are. But all I want to say is that if you do the work internally and you take the time to figure out how you're wired and you work on it every single day, you will be okay. You will be at a level where you're floating and you're genuinely happy about your life. And it has nothing to do with money or accolades or business. It has everything to do with like how you're wiring yourself every day to not, I don't want to say combat, but just to be okay. And this was the first year consistently where it was just the working out, the eating healthy, the checking in, communicating, and just doing the work to make sure I'm good in here. And I feel so solid. And I'm so proud of myself for finally not letting it kind of put me in a corner. Because, seasonal depression is real, right? The summer will be late, spring will be late. And then September from September to February, you're like a little crab in a bucket. And that didn't happen to me, but it took work. So I just want to say that if you work on it every day, you take the time to pour into you, you will be okay.
Thank you. I'm
Thank
taking
you
those
so
words
much.
too,
Yes,
because
please do.
I'm a forever work in progress.
Yeah.
Well, please, Lisbeth, let everybody know how they can find you online, and also for any of listeners out there, aspiring entrepreneurs, if you're in business owners, if you're looking for some PR help, if you need some help,
Yes.
guidance in getting your business started, Lisbeth, how can they find you?
So, our website, www.quemami.com. We're on IG, Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, TikTok, all the same platforms, Que Mami Inc. And my email, admin@quemami.com. You can shoot me a DM. Any of the platforms, you can connect with me. I'm there. So follow me there, and I'm happy to help you.
What an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your light and insights with us, Lisbeth. And to all of you tuning in, if this episode lit a spark, if it inspired you or made you reflect, here's how you can show some love. Take a moment to rate the podcast, share it with someone who needs this energy, and of course, hit that follow or subscribe button to stay tuned for more empowering stories and convos with phenomenal guests just like Lisbeth. Till next time, mi gente, remember, you have everything you need to build your dreams. Ciao.